AITA for stopping financial support after my wife chose another man? I'm Adrian, 44, and by the time Claire said that to me, we had been married for 9 years. I was the husband who kept receipts in a kitchen drawer, knew which bills drafted on which Friday, and still made her coffee the way she liked it, even when we were barely speaking. I'm not saying I was perfect. I could be quiet when I should have been honest. I used to think being dependable was the same thing as being loved back. If I kept the lights on, kept my word, remembered the little things, and didn't make every bad day worse, I thought that counted as love. But I never imagined my wife would ask me to finance the exit plan she had built with another man. Claire and I were not one of those couples who screamed through walls or made friends uncomfortable at dinner. From the outside, we probably looked steady. We had a joint checking account, a mortgage, shared insurance, a car arrangement that had both of our names tangled through the paperwork, and a family group chat that sent too many birthday reminders and blurry holiday photos. The cracks in our marriage were quiet. Her phone started going face down on the table. Then it started leaving the room with her. If I walked into the kitchen while she was texting, her thumb would move fast, and the screen would go black. At first, I told myself she deserved privacy. Everybody deserves privacy. But privacy has a different temperature when it turns into secrecy. Then the language changed. If I asked where a charge came from, it became an interrogation. If I asked why she came home 2 hours later than she had said, I was monitoring her. If I asked whether we could sit down and talk about the way we had been avoiding each other, she said I was making her feel emotionally unsafe. One Friday evening, I was standing at the kitchen counter with the credit card statement open on my phone. There was a restaurant charge I didn't recognize, not huge, but high enough to make me pause. Claire was rinsing a mug at the sink. "Do you remember what this charge was?" I asked. She didn't even turn around. "What charge?" I read the name of the place. Her shoulders tightened. "Dinner with Marissa. I told you. You said you grabbed coffee with her." Claire shut off the faucet and looked at me like I had set a trap. "This is exactly what I mean, Adrian. You turn everything into a cross-examination." I lowered the phone. "I'm asking about a statement." "No," she said. "You're asking where I was because you don't trust me." The strange thing was, until that moment, I had trusted her. Not perfectly, not blindly, but enough to let things go that I should have looked at sooner. I suggested counseling a week later. We were eating dinner at home, the kind of meal where the food was fine and the silence made it taste like cardboard. Claire moved rice around on her plate, while I tried to find the least threatening way to say we were falling apart. "I don't want us to become strangers," I said. "Maybe we should talk to somebody." She laughed once, not because anything was funny. "Therapy can't create chemistry, Adrian." That sentence sat between us like a third person. "Is that what you think this is?" I asked. "A chemistry problem?" "I think I have spent years feeling like a bill that's overdue," she said. "Everything is practical. Everything is responsible. Everything is numbers." I looked around the kitchen I had cleaned before she got home, at the grocery list pinned to the fridge, at the coffee pods I bought because they were the ones she liked. "Responsible isn't the same as cold," I said. "It can feel the same," she said quietly. After that, she started mentioning someone without mentioning him. "Some people actually listen," she said one morning while scrolling through her phone. Another time, after coming home from what she called a mental health walk, she said, "It's amazing when someone sees you without needing you to explain every emotion like a receipt." I asked her who she was talking about. She said, "A friend." "Does this friend have a name?" "You're proving my point," she said. I should have pushed harder. I know that now. But at the time, I was still trying not to turn suspicion into poison. I thought if I stayed calm, maybe she would stop acting like I was an enemy. Then came the night in the living room. It was late enough that the house had gone still. The dishwasher was humming. The lamp beside the couch made everything look warmer than it felt. Claire sat across from me with both hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. "I need to live honestly," she said. I remember that phrase because it sounded rehearsed. Not honest. Rehearsed. "Okay," I said. She took a breath. "There is someone else." The words landed, but they didn't explode. Not right away. They sank. "Who?" "His name is Ethan." I nodded once because my body didn't know what else to do. "How long?" She looked at the floor before answering. "A few weeks." That tiny pause told me more than the answer. "A few weeks," I repeated. "I didn't plan this," she said quickly. "I just finally met someone who sees me. He makes me feel alive." He listens without making me feel managed. Did you sleep with him? Her eyes filled with tears so fast I knew they had been ready. I don't want this to become ugly. That wasn't my question. Adrian, please. I'm trying to do this with kindness. There it was again. The polished language. The soft cushion around a hard truth. I sat back and let her talk. Claire didn't ask for forgiveness. She asked for grace. She said she needed time to figure out her next chapter. She said we didn't have to destroy each other. She said it would be healthiest if we separated peacefully and didn't involve everyone before things were clear. Then she explained what peace meant. I would keep paying the mortgage while she stayed in the house for a few months because uprooting both of us right now would be traumatic. I would keep the car arrangement the same because the paperwork was complicated. I would not remove her authorized card access because she needed stability and didn't want to be forced into panic decisions. I would keep paying the normal bills because financial punishment would only prove what she had been trying to explain. And I would not tell our families about Ethan because she didn't want him made into a villain. I stared at her for a few seconds. So you want out of the marriage, I said, but not out of the benefits. Her face hardened. That is such an ugly way to put it. Grace is not the same thing as financing your affair. You make everything about money. No, you brought money into it when you asked me to keep paying for the life you're leaving. She wiped her cheek. I deserve to feel alive, Adrian. You can feel alive on your own budget. That was the first time she looked truly shocked. I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I didn't call Ethan. I didn't beg. I picked up my phone and texted Rachel. Rachel was an attorney I had consulted once years earlier for a family issue. I still had her number saved. My message was simple. I need an appointment as soon as possible. Separation. Possible marital funds issue. Claire watched me type. Who are you texting? My lawyer. Her mouth opened slightly. Seriously? You said you want to live honestly. I'm making sure we do that in writing. That night, I slept in the guest room, though I didn't really sleep. Around 1:15 a.m., I called Owen. Owen is my younger brother in every way except the emotional one. He has always been better at saying the thing everyone else tries to swallow. He answered on the third ring, voice rough. You okay? I sat on the edge of the bed in the dark and told him the short version. Claire, Ethan, a few weeks, the mortgage, the cards, the graceful transition. For a few seconds, he said nothing. Then he asked, please tell me you're not going to let her cry and keep the keys to your life. I'm not begging her. That's not what I asked. I rubbed my eyes. No, I'm not going to keep being useful to someone who doesn't respect me. He exhaled. Good. Because I was worried you'd try to save the house while she walked out the back door, carrying the furniture. It should have made me laugh. It didn't. Then he got quiet again. Adrian, he said, I need to tell you something. My stomach tightened. What? I noticed some stuff. A while ago. Nothing I could prove. Her being weird with her phone. Her leaving early from that barbecue and saying she had a headache. Then I saw her car pull back and way later on your doorbell camera when I stopped by to drop off those tools. I didn't want to say anything without proof. I didn't want to hurt you if I was wrong. I closed my eyes. You weren't wrong. I'm sorry. Me too. The next morning, I made coffee out of habit. I made hers the way she liked it, and then stood there hating myself a little for remembering. She came in wearing a soft gray sweater, eyes swollen but dry. We don't have to be enemies, she said. I poured my coffee, then stopped treating me like a bank with feelings. Her expression flickered. I can't talk to you when you're being cruel. Then email me. That was when I started looking. Not hacking, not stalking, not doing anything I had no right to access. Just opening the statements I should have reviewed sooner. Joint checking, shared credit card, insurance emails, mortgage escrow notices, calendar entries, receipts automatically forwarded to the account we both used for household records. It is one thing to suspect a lie. It is another thing to see the lie itemized. There was a hotel deposit from a Thursday when Claire had said she was staying late with a friend who was going through a breakup. There were restaurant charges on 2 separate nights. She had claimed to be at yoga. There was a gift purchase from a men's clothing store, followed by a gas charge on the other side of town and a rideshare charge after midnight. There were transfers from our joint checking account into a private account labeled Emergency Savings. The first one was small, then another, then 2 larger ones. I opened the shared calendar and started matching dates. Her mental health walks, lined up with expensive lunches. Her dinner with Marissa lined up with a hotel parking charge. The night she had come home smelling like unfamiliar cologne, there was a reservation hold at a restaurant I had never been to. The doorbell camera filled in the blanks she forgot. On one night, she had told me she got home at 10. The timestamp showed 12:47 a.m. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open while the house made its normal morning sounds around me. The ice maker clunked. A car passed outside. Somewhere down the hall, Claire was getting ready like it was just another day. My hands were steady. That surprised me. Maybe shock has stages. Maybe one of them is bookkeeping. Rachel saw me that afternoon. Her office was plain, almost aggressively calm. No dramatic leather chairs, no wall of intimidation. Just a conference table, a legal pad, and a woman who looked at my folder like it was a map out of a burning building. I told her what Claire admitted. I told her what Claire wanted. I showed her the statements and transfers. Rachel listened without interrupting, then clicked her pen once. First, she said, do not empty accounts. Do not threaten her. Do not send angry texts. Do not call the other man. Do not make a public post. I wasn't planning to. Good. Keep not planning to. I almost smiled. She flipped a page on her legal pad. You do not need revenge. You need documentation. You need lawful boundaries. That is different. What can I stop paying? Anything you are not legally required to keep funding. We evaluate carefully and document. Future income should go into an account in your name. Preserve records. Change passwords on accounts that are solely yours. Remove optional authorized access where you lawfully can. Keep mortgage and required obligations clean for now, so she cannot claim abandonment or financial misconduct. And the card. If she is an authorized user on an account in your name, we can address that. If there are joint obligations, we handle them differently. No shortcuts. No emotional decisions. I nodded. Rachel leaned forward slightly. Make her put financial requests in writing. A clean paper trail is louder than an angry text. So I got boring. I opened a new personal account for my future income. I changed passwords on accounts in my name. I removed unnecessary authorized user access where Rachel confirmed I could. I downloaded statements, saved emails, printed mortgage records, copied insurance documents, and put everything in chronological order. Then I sent Claire one email. Going forward, all financial requests need to be sent in writing. I will meet legal obligations. I will not continue optional personal spending or non-essential support outside written agreement. She called within 4 minutes. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice came through tight and breathy. Adrian, I cannot believe you're doing this. You don't get to control me because I stopped loving you. Cutting off access overnight is abusive. You are proving everything I said. I am trying to choose myself and you're punishing me for it. I saved the voicemail. Then I replied by email. I am not controlling you. I am declining to sponsor you. Send any specific financial request in writing. She sent 7 texts after that. This is cruel. You know I need the car. You are making Ethan look like some villain. I never said you had to pay for him. You are obsessed with numbers. You care more about money than me. Please don't make this uglier than it has to be. I answered none of them by text. 2 days later, the twist arrived because Claire was careful, but not careful enough. We had a family laptop that mostly lived in the small desk area off the kitchen. Claire used it sometimes when her phone was charging or when she wanted to print something. It was still synced to the household email account for receipts, travel confirmations, and random documents we both used over the years. I was searching for an escrow email when a thumbnail caught my eye. It was a screenshot attached to an email Claire had sent to herself. The subject line was just a period. Maybe she meant to delete it. Maybe she forgot the account synced there. Maybe she thought I was still the kind of husband who didn't look closely. I opened it. It showed part of a conversation with Ethan. Ethan, how long until he has to buy you out? Ethan, don't leave before the house money is settled. Claire, I know. I just need Adrian to keep things calm for a few months. Ethan, you said he feels guilty easily. Use that. Claire, I don't want it to be ugly. Ethan, then let him think he's being noble. I read it once. Then again. The grief I had been carrying changed shape. It stopped being heavy and became sharp. Claire had not simply fallen in love with someone else. She had built a plan. She had told him how to manage me. She had tried to turn my patience into a payment plan. I forwarded the screenshot to Rachel with no commentary. She replied 20 minutes later. Preserve original. Do not confront her verbally. We will include this in the record. That same night, Claire started building her audience. The family group chat, which had been quiet except for recipes and birthday reminders, lit up around dinner. Margaret, Adrian, please don't make this uglier than it has to be. Margaret is Claire's mother. She has always been warm to me when life was easy and sharp when Claire cried. Before I could answer, another message came through from one of our mutual friends. Friend, we only know what Claire told us, man, but cutting her off like that seems extreme. Owen replied before I did. Owen, then maybe everyone should stop talking until they know the rest. Margaret, this is family. We are allowed to care. I typed and deleted 3 different replies before sending one. Margaret, you do not have the whole story. She called me immediately. I answered because part of me still respected her, and part of me wanted to know how much Claire had said. Adrian, Margaret said, voice already trembling with accusation, I thought better of you. What did Claire tell you? She told me you cut her off with nothing because she admitted the marriage was broken. She said you were using money to punish her. I looked down at the printed stack on the table. She left out Ethan? There was a pause. She said there is someone who has been emotionally supportive. That is one way to describe an affair. You are throwing away a marriage over pride. No, Margaret. Claire is asking me to keep funding a marriage she already left. I have my daughter crying on the phone. And I have bank statements. She inhaled sharply. That sounds cold. Facts usually do when they interrupt a performance. She hung up on me. I stared at the phone for a while, not angry exactly. More tired. Claire had always been good at crying first. By the time anyone asked me what happened, they already felt like they were cross-examining the victim. 3 days later, Claire asked me to come to dinner. Not at our house. At Margaret's. She said it would help if we had people who love us in the room. She said she wanted us to talk peacefully. She said Ethan might come by because he was part of her support system and she didn't want to hide anymore. I read the message twice. Then I forwarded it to Rachel. Rachel called me instead of emailing. This is not a conversation, she said. This is a stage. I know. You do not have to attend. If I don't, she controls the story. Rachel was quiet for a moment. If you go, do not improvise. Bring copies, not originals. Say less than you want to. Leave when you are done. Can I show them? You can show records you are lawfully able to share. Do not disclose anything reckless. Keep it focused on correcting false statements about you. That's all I want. No, Rachel said. You want a lot more than that. You are going to do only that. She was right. That was why I needed her. Owen drove with me to Margaret's house. I didn't ask him to, but he showed up at my place 20 minutes before I had planned to leave, wearing the same expression he used to wear when we were kids and someone was about to start trouble. You have the folder? He asked. I held it up. You have your exit plan? Door, car, silence. Good. Because if Ethan starts talking like a candle commercial, I may need supervision. That time I did laugh. The dinner table was already set when we arrived. Plates, water glasses, a salad nobody touched, a casserole cooling in the middle like this was a normal family meal and not a trial with napkins. Claire sat beside Margaret, looking pale and wounded. Ethan was there too, which told me everything I needed to know about the purpose of the night. He stood when I walked in and offered his hand. Adrian, he said softly, I didn't come here to fight you. I looked at his hand, then at him. Then sit down. His hand lowered. He was wearing an expensive jacket. Dark, tailored, casual in the way expensive things pretend not to be expensive. Later, I matched it to a purchase on the card Claire had still been using then. At the time, I just noticed the arrogance of a man wearing my money to comfort my wife in front of me. A few mutual friends were there. 2 relatives. Margaret at the head of the table, clutching a cloth napkin like it was keeping her upright. Claire started before anyone took a bite. I asked everyone here because I don't want this to become a war, she said. Adrian and I have both made mistakes. But I need people to understand that for years I felt invisible. I felt managed. I felt like I was only safe when I was useful. Ethan helped me remember that I am a person. Ethan placed his hand near hers on the table, not touching, just close enough for everyone to see. This is not about money, he said. This is about 2 people finally being honest. Owen shifted beside me. Claire continued, voice shaking in all the right places. When I told Adrian I needed space, he immediately started cutting off access, changing passwords, treating me like an enemy. That is not love. That is control. Margaret looked at me. I thought you were better than that. One of our friends, a guy who had eaten burgers at my house 6 weeks earlier, said, maybe if you treated her like a wife, she wouldn't have needed someone else. There it was. The sentence Claire had invited me there to hear. I felt heat rise in my face, then pass. My hand stayed calm. I set my phone on the table. Then I placed the printed folder beside it. I was going to keep this private, I said. But since I'm being judged in public, I'll answer in public. Claire's eyes changed. Adrian, she said. I opened the folder. You wanted everyone to hear your story. Now they can see the dates. Nobody moved. I started with the timeline. Not the screenshot. Not the worst thing first. Just the timeline. Claire told me Ethan had been in her life for a few weeks. Here are restaurant charges from 3 months before that. Here is the hotel deposit from a Thursday. She told me she was helping a friend. Here is the doorbell timestamp from the same night, showing she came home at 12:47 after telling me 10. Here are the transfers from our joint checking account into an account labeled emergency savings. Margaret's face tightened. Claire whispered, this is private. So was our marriage. You brought an audience. I turned another page. Here is Claire's message asking me to keep paying the mortgage while she figured out her next chapter. Here is the voicemail where she called it financial abuse when I stopped optional access on an account in my name. Here is the attorney letter documenting that I would continue legal obligations. Not personal spending connected to her affair. Nobody interrupted me after the second page. The friend who had judged me looked down at his plate. Ethan leaned back slightly, like distance could erase ink. I turned to the screenshot last. And here is Ethan. Claire made a small sound. I read the messages aloud, not loudly, not dramatically. How long until he has to buy you out? Ethan's jaw tightened. Don't leave before the house money is settled. Margaret's hand went to her mouth. I just need Adrian to keep things calm for a few months. I looked at Claire when I read the last one. Let him think he's being noble. The room went so quiet I could hear the refrigerator kick on in the next room. Ethan cleared his throat. The financial stuff is between you and your wife. Owen leaned forward. Then why were you asking when he had to buy her out? Ethan looked at him, then at Claire, then at me. Things are complicated, he said. Owen laughed once. They usually are when the boyfriend needs a payout schedule. Claire's tears came then, but they didn't move the room the way they used to. You're humiliating me, she said. I closed the folder. No, you humiliated me with a lie. I'm ending it with proof. You didn't have to do this here. You invited me here. I wanted support. You wanted witnesses. You got them. Margaret stood so quickly her chair scraped the floor. Claire, she said, voice thin, is that true? The transfers? The messages? Claire wiped under her eyes. It's not that simple. That answer did more damage than any confession would have. Ethan stood next. I think I should go, he said. Claire looked up at him like he had just stepped out from under a roof while leaving her in the rain. Ethan. He didn't look at her. This is getting too heated. Owen muttered. Now he hates drama. Ethan left without touching Claire's shoulder, without defending her, without any of the soulful loyalty she had advertised. The front door closed softly, which somehow made it worse. I stood too. From now on, I said, anything about money, property, the car, insurance, or the house goes through Rachel or written email. I will meet every legal obligation. I will not fund anything beyond that. Claire stared at me like she was waiting for the man she used to know to come back and soften the sentence. He didn't. I picked up the folder. Owen stood beside me. Margaret said my name as I reached the doorway. I stopped, but I didn't turn fully around. Her face looked older than it had when I arrived. I didn't know about the transfers, she said. I know. Claire told me you cut her off with nothing. I know. Her eyes dropped. I should have asked more questions. I nodded once. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a performance. It was just acknowledgement. Yes, I said. You should have. Then I left. The first thing Claire lost was not money. It was the audience she had built for herself. By the next morning, the group chat had gone silent. No inspirational quotes from Margaret. No cold messages from friends. No one telling me to be compassionate with a story they had not bothered to verify. One friend texted me privately. I'm sorry. We only knew what she said. I looked at the message for a long time before replying. Then maybe next time, no more before judging. Another friend never apologized. He just stopped talking. That happened with a few people. I learned that some people would rather disappear than admit they helped carry a lie. Margaret called 2 days later. I let it go to voicemail, then listened when I was ready. "Adrian," she said, and her voice sounded smaller than usual. "I owe you an apology. I thought you were throwing away a marriage. I didn't understand what Claire had done, and I defended her before I had the truth. You helped this family for years, and I should not have assumed the worst of you. I'm sorry. I saved that voicemail too, though not for Rachel. For myself." Claire did not apologize. At first, she sent emails that still sounded like statements for an invisible jury. "I am disappointed you chose public humiliation over compassion. I hope one day you understand that emotional neglect has consequences. I need access to the card restored until I can stabilize." Rachel responded to the financial parts. I ignored the rest. Then the tone changed. The card she had used for convenience was gone. The private account she had been feeding from our joint money became part of the legal discussion. The car arrangement stopped being a vague emotional issue and became paperwork. The house was no longer a fantasy payout Ethan could whisper about in screenshots. It was an asset, a debt, and a process. Claire hated process. Process did not cry with her. Process did not reassure her that she was brave. Process asked for dates. Ethan started fading the moment the romance came with invoices. I know because Claire accidentally forwarded one email chain to the wrong address, and because Margaret, in one painful attempt at honesty, told me more than I asked for. His texts became slower. His plans became harder to confirm. He said he needed space until things settled. He said he didn't want to be blamed for legal drama. He said he loved her, but the situation was too heavy. That was Ethan. Brave when another man was paying. Philosophical when nobody asked him for rent. Silent when the receipts hit the table. I did not celebrate that. Not exactly. There were mornings when the house felt too quiet. There were nights when I would reach for my phone to send Claire a stupid picture from the grocery store before remembering that version of us was gone. I still missed the woman I married, or maybe I missed who I got to be when I believed in her. But missing someone is not the same as owing them access. A few weeks after the dinner, I cleaned out the kitchen drawer where I used to keep old receipts. For years, it had been a messy little archive of our life. Hardware store slips, grocery totals, oil change records, appliance warranties, notes I wrote to remind myself which bill drafted when. I threw away what didn't matter and scanned what did. Then I made coffee for one. It tasted too strong at first because I had spent years measuring for two. I stood at the counter with the mug in my hand, looking at the empty space where Claire used to leave her keys. I expected to feel victorious by then. I didn't. Victory sounds too loud for what it was. What I felt was clean. Every message went through Rachel or email. Every bill had a purpose. Every request had to survive being written down. Claire could no longer turn a tear into a transfer or a vague accusation into access. She told people I punished her for leaving. That was never true. She was allowed to leave. She was allowed to choose Ethan. She was allowed to call it grace, truth, chemistry, freedom, or whatever word made it easier to sleep at night. But she was not allowed to hand me the bill for the lie. I did not ruin Claire's new life. I just stopped underwriting it. She wanted freedom. I made sure she paid for it herself. If you liked it, don't forget